When Aputure announced the Spotlight Mount II, my interest was piqued. I already owned the original Spotlight mount and it had served me well for years. But like a lot of owner-operators, I was hoping for a few quality of life improvements. So did Aputure deliver?
A new whip.
Before we get too far into this, I want to explain what this video is and what it isn't. This isn't an optical deep dive. There are already some excellent reviews covering the projection quality, chromatic aberration, and all the technical optical details. What I wanted to know was much simpler. Does the Spotlight Mount II actually make my job easier? Because ultimately, that's how I judge gear. It doesn't have to be revolutionary. It just has to remove friction from my workflow. And for me, the biggest improvement, by far, it's the rotating barrel. If you've used the original Spotlight mount, you already know the process. Every time you want to rotate a window pattern or gobo, you're pulling the holder out, rotating the insert and putting it back in. And if the light's been running a while, you probably want to grab some gloves first. It isn't a huge deal, but when you're making those adjustments over and over throughout a day, it gets old. With the Spotlight Mount II, you simply rotate the barrel. That's it. After using it for a while, it's one of those features that's surprisingly difficult to give up. One thing I also noticed throughout testing is that the mounting and removing is noticeably smoother on Aputure's newer Pro Lock fixtures. It's certainly not a reason to upgrade your lights, but if you're already using them, it's a really nice improvement. The other feature that really caught my attention was the expanded lens lineup. I purchased mine with the 50-degree lens and then added the 26 and 36 separately. Aputure also offers a 19-degree lens, but for my work, these three, they pretty well have me covered. Since I often use spotlight mounts for window patterns and breakup textures, I wanted to see both how much output I was getting and how large a projection each lens actually produced at 3 meters using a window pattern we're probably all too familiar with as a consistent reference. I put all the measurements on the screen, but the key takeaway is pretty straightforward. The 26 degree gives you the most punch, the 36 degree is probably the best all-around choice, and the new 50 gives you dramatically more coverage. Personally, if I could only own one, I'd still buy the 36, but I think the 50 is going to become my most used lens simply because I've been in so many locations where I just can't back the light up any farther. That extra coverage, it actually solves a real production problem. I also wanted to answer another question. What if you already owned Aputure's previous generation fixtures? So I tested the Spotlight mount with my 400X, my 600D Pro, and my 600C Pro. Again, I'll leave all the measurements on screen. Feel free to pause to take a closer look. The practical takeaway is this: the 400X performs exactly how I'd expect. The 600D Pro also paired really well with the Spotlight Mount II, and I wouldn't hesitate to use that combination professionally. The 600C Pro is still perfectly usable for softer projections and when you need that RGB color, but if projection quality is your top priority, I'd still reach for one of the daylight or bicolor fixtures. One thing I was also happy to see is that the Spotlight mount, it still uses the B-size gobos, which I have a bunch of. And yes, the iris from my original Spotlight mount, it also works. It takes a little more pressure to install than I expected, but once it's seated, it works just fine. For reference, I also mounted my original Spotlight mount onto the 400X, and I've included those measurements as well. After spending time with both versions, I don't think Aputure reinvented the Spotlight mount. I do think they refined it. So should you upgrade? If you're perfectly happy with your original Spotlight mount and none of these new features solve a problem you actually have, probably not. But if you've ever wished you could rotate a projection faster, or you've ever been limited by your available lens options, or you've simply run out of room to back the light up, I think the Spotlight Mount II is absolutely worth considering. For me, the rotating barrel alone justifies the upgrade. The 50-degree lens, it's just icing on the cake, because again, that's how I judge gear purchases. Not by the features listed on the spec sheet, but by whether they help me work faster, solve problems on set, and spend more time focusing on the creative side of the job. If you're looking for a deeper dive into the optical performance, I'll post a couple of excellent videos from Andrew at Gaffer Gear and Luke at Meet the Gaffer. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.